Are we good to go, Adrian?
You may begin.
All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our ICE Vendor Engagement Day. Adrian, could you hit the next slide, please? All right, so this is going to be our agenda for the day. And the first part, of course, is going to be a little bit discussion of things that you may or may not know if you've been following ICE, our mission, our organizational structure. So I'll just run through that really quickly. Then we're going to talk about the Zero Trust Roadmap update with Rob Thorne, our CISO. We'll cover a little bit of about our small business opportunities and basically statistics on that. And then we'll get into the future and current acquisitions. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So during the course of this event, you can use the Q&A a little icon up there and put your questions in during this briefing. So don't necessarily wait till the end. If you know that you have questions ahead of time, go ahead and put them in there. It gives us a chance to kind of try to address them ahead of time and keep the flow of the briefing going. Okay, so the next slide. Of course, our mission to protect America from national security and public safety threats by enforcing immigration and customs laws. Now, our organizational structure is comprised of essentially 4 separate directorates. Our enforcement and removal operations, which pretty much is self-explanatory. Homeland Security investigations. They're after transnational crime, disrupting, dismantling criminal organizations. Then M&A, which is pretty much our backbone that supports all the offices within ICE. And of course, our Office of Principal Legal Advisors, OPLA. So Rob, you're up. Go ahead and get started for us, please.
Yeah, that was quick, Tom. You went through that much faster than I thought you would. But thank you. And
sleep on me.
Yeah, I know. Anyhow, thank you, Tom, and good morning. As Tom mentioned, I'm Rob Thorne. I am the ICE Chief Information Security Officer, and the title of the presentation today or overview is, hey, where are we at within our zero trust journey and our roadmap? And I definitely will be talking about zero trust in our roadmap. But what I thought I would do is give that overview in the context of our 5 priorities that we have within OCIO. We don't specifically say, hey, we've got a zero trust project here. We're integrating it within everything that we do in our day-to-day business. So if you want to go ahead, Adrian, and move to that next slide, I'll go ahead and kind of walk folks through this slide. As we transition from FY23 into FY24, our priorities are basically going to be staying the same from an ICE perspective. And what I mean by that is we're continually trying to achieve our goals and meet recent cybersecurity binding operational directives and executive orders. Most of you probably are familiar with, Executive Order 14028, which is about improving the nation's cybersecurity through zero trust. Of course, binding operational directive 2131 and a slew of other that I won't mention, but you're probably familiar with. So from a prioritization perspective, I should step back here really quick. This year, fiscal year 23, what ICE did is we went and we did a quick gap analysis within our organization to say, hey, what tools, what capabilities do we currently have in place that will help us achieve our zero trust goals? What gaps do we have and where do we need to go from here? So yes, we do have a roadmap in place. We have lined things up and what we need to do. And from a prioritization perspective, I'm going to start from the left to the right here with this tree that I've got on this picture here. Accelerated service delivery model. So when we talk about accelerated service, what we're talking about is getting our mission space and our users the technology they need to meet their requirements. And this means pushing out systems, micro applications, whatever you'd like to call them, at a much faster pace. And when you think about that, traditionally, cybersecurity is more of a, hey, waterfall traditional approach where we say, okay, let's get the requirements, let's line those up, let's see, let's select our controls, let's implement our controls, and then finally we've got an ATO. So what we're doing here, and this very much has to do with Zero Trust, is we're looking to further advance security into our pipelines, into our CI/CD pipeline, into our serverless pipelines. So we're continuing to try to advance that so we can quickly have gates in place where security is already agreed to. And as you move through the gates, we already know that security is in place. And then once it goes into production, I'm not having to go back and rescan. I already know that the code that's being pushed out is secure. So that's one area that we focused on this year. We're going to continue focus on into FY24. The other thing that comes up as well is faster ATO. Well, we know the pipelines are going to help us get to a faster ATO, but we still have the back end paperwork that needs to be done. So here, when you look at Zero Trust and you look at one of you've got your pillars, but across the bottom, you've got automation. So in this area, we're really focused on automating our tasks as best we can, reusing platforms, looking at common controls and seeing how we could leverage those to reduce our time to ATO. We've made a lot of progress here, but we've still got a lot of work to do in this area. So, this is an area where I'm looking for expertise, ideas, creativity. Again, don't come to me and say, I can do it in one day. I'm certain you can do it quickly, but one day, I'm just not certain we're there yet. Continuing to move up, cybersecurity. This is, of course, one of our big priorities across all of us, OCIO, and that makes me happy. In this area, what we're trying to do from a cybersecurity perspective is mine our data, metrics. I want to be a data-driven organization. So what I'm looking at is all this data that I'm collecting. How can I use it to drive my decision making? How can I look at the data in different ways to determine what gaps I have, what risks I may have, and how can I do that to determine where I should spend my money and what decisions I should be making. The other thing we're focused on here is, I mentioned that we did a gap analysis. So we have a number of tools in our environment. Of course, we're going to continue to look at the best of breed. So I never sit back and I say, hey, just because I've got a tool that can scan my environment, I'm gonna sit back and say it's the best tool. I'm always constantly looking to improve. What we're focused on now is integrating those tools, making certain that those tools, the metrics, the information that's being gathered can be used intelligently to make decisions at the speed of mission. The next thing that we're doing, M2131, I mentioned that earlier. This is big for us. So, as we move towards our journey to meet all the requirements laid out in M2131, I think with most organizations, what we found is we're gathering a lot of data. That's where I alluded to in the beginning about a data-driven organization. So how do I intelligently use that data? How do I reduce my cost with the amount of data that I'm gathering? And then how do I get it to the right people to make those decisions? So that'll be a big thing that we're working on in FY24. Continuing up to the middle of the priorities, we're talking about enterprise mobility. So here, the realization or where we're at right now from an enterprise perspective is our end users want data at all times. They want it with different devices, and they want it to be presented on a multitude of devices. So what I mean by that is, I want my iPhone or my mobile device to act just like my laptop. So here we're continually looking at what do we need to do to protect the data that we have on our endpoints. So let's say I have a mobile device management solution, a mobile application management solution, an MTD in place, mobile threat detection. What else do I need to protect that data, to sandbox it, to make certain that I don't have data leakage on our mobile devices, and I can secure that data as it travels. Next one is IT data modernization. This is one where when we talk about zero trust, I truly believe that zero trust is an opportunity to modernize your network and modernize your IT that you have in place. And we definitely embrace that at ICE, and that's the direction that we're headed in. So a lot of the projects that we currently have going, what we do is I've got a team that will come in and look at that project and say, how can we implement zero trust and wrap zero trust around this current project without spending a lot of money. We're using our existing tool sets. So that's one of the things that we're focused on here. This also includes identity and access management, where we're moving more towards that conditional, yes or no access, to where it's more adaptive, where we can make decisions to that are not just, a 0 or a 1. We can actually say, hey, let's run some quick scans on this. If you're at the latest patch set, then we're going to allow you to do this. Hey, let's see what device you're coming through. If it's a known device, then we can do X. So we're continuing on our journey with identity and access, and that's going to be a big area that we're focused on. And then finally, I think just across all of the DHS community, we're keenly aware of the work that we need to do with supply chain management, as well as the issues surrounding quantum encryption. While when we talk about quantum encryption, there's still a lot of unknowns there. It is an area that we're focused on and that we're working closely with DHS on to see what needs to be done now, and then how do we prepare ourselves so when the time does come that we'll be ready to utilize those new encryption or algorithms that are going to be available. And then finally, this last piece here, which is mission delivery culture. So I always say, the best defense is a well-educated workforce. And one of the areas that we're going to be focusing on is how do we make our end user training, our cybersecurity training, more meaningful to the organization. So we all know there's a requirement within the government to provide annual cybersecurity training, but how can I make that more meaningful, where someone doesn't just have to click through slides and say, thank goodness I got done with that. I guessed on the questions and I got them right. I can get back to my job. How can I pepper my end users throughout the year with meaningful snippets of information that they'll be willing to absorb and then apply with the daily work that they're doing? So, as we progress into FY24, this will be a huge focus. Again, like I said, I think that best defense is a workforce that's educated on what they need to do from a cybersecurity perspective. And Tom, that's it. That's all we're doing, is those 5 areas. So we've got a lot going on. I look forward again to engaging with the vendor community. I do welcome folks reaching out and talk to me about some of their capabilities, what they can do in these different areas. It's always a pleasure to see all the creativity that the vendors have to offer.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Rob. And for the folks watching, remember, go ahead, put your questions in the Q&A area, and we'll try to address them as we go. And especially at the end, we'll take time to get to everyone's questions. So now I believe Anita is up next. She's our small business specialist. So you're up, Anita.
Good morning, everyone. So as Tom said, I'm Anita Perkins, the small business specialist for ICE. Next slide, please. So I'll just discuss a little bit on how to do business with ICE, and it relates to the other agencies under DHS as well. We have, of course, our acquisition planning forecast system, where we post daily, sometimes multiple times a day, our upcoming requirements. Also, there is the DHS contracting opportunities. You can go to that particular website. SAM, our contracting opportunities for the open market is posted there as well. Also, once a month, DHS, the OCIO office conducts their vendor outreach sessions between small businesses and the components. So that's virtual. You can go to that particular website for that information. Next slide, please. So as of FY22, ICE in their IT awards, this is the summary. We had 1,921 actions, 580 million dollars plus almost 581 in total obligated dollars, and the percentage was 74%. Next slide, please. So our small business summary for ICE for FY22, we were a little bit shy of our small business overall goals at 35%. The goal was 38%. SDB 9% and 8A is 9%. So we were a little, we had a little shortfall on our 8A numbers. HubZone, woman-owned, and service-disabled veteran owned small business, we exceeded all of those goals. So, and now the way that SBA is calculating SDB and 8A, all 8A contracts are SDBs, but not all SDBs are 8A. So SBA will calculate it based on the number of contracts that's awarded specifically to the 8A program. That will be part of that 9%, and then SDBs alone. So they'll separate those two to come up with that number. And I think that's all I have. I will say, I'm sorry, we are on still working towards making our small business goals for FY23. Those numbers will come out during our next industry engagement day. So we're still calculating those. The fiscal year doesn't end until September 30 of this year. So we'll have those numbers in the next meeting. I will say overall, DHS has received their 14th in a row A or A+ from SBA on the scorecard for our awarding of contracts to small businesses. And that's all I have. You can put your questions and answers in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Appreciate that. So next slide, Adrian, please. All right, so here's where we're going to talk a little bit about some of the procurements that we have ongoing, and just a basic disclaimer that this is not committing the government to anything. In fact, sometimes we change our strategy as we move along, but so we're not asking for proposals or anything of that nature. This is information purposes only. So who's up first? There we go. Heather.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Heather Coffin. I am the contracting officer, and I will be talking about the Electronic Health Record System, EHR. This is for the ICE Health Services Corp, also known as IHSC. IHSC is looking to acquire and replace the current EHR and auxiliary modules to increase operational efficiency, enhance reporting capabilities, and improve the quality of patient healthcare. Additionally, IHSC would like to procure a multi-module electronic health record system. Currently, the EHR system is comprised of the medical and dental record documentation system, correctional pharmacy software, radiology, and electronic medication administration record. The vendor's software product is encouraged to be certified by the Office of the National Coordinator for Health Information Technology, which requires the vendor to maintain certified functionality during systems integration through continuous testing. We're really in the early stages for this procurement. Some information that's not here on the slide that I can provide is that we currently have 2 contracts that are in place expiring fiscal year 25 that do this work. And what we're trying to do right now is figure out if there is one vendor that can provide us this work. So For some of the other slides that you will see, and we state there's incumbent. The incumbent for this is currently 2 vendors, ECW and AMAR, both ending in fiscal year 25. We have posted an RFI on SAM.gov back in April, and we are still reviewing the results for those. So obviously, if we do find that there is a one vendor that can do both work, then we will be going that route. If not, and we have to keep them separate, then it would be 2 separate actions. Our program POC is Captain Bertofo. If there's anything you want to add, Captain Bertofo, please do so.
Yes, nothing to add, Ms. Kaufman. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. We can go to the next slide. Okay. Give me 1 second. So I will be presenting this slide for my fellow contracting officer, and bear with me, my screen is freezing. This requirement is for Criminal Alien Identification Initiative for the software operations and maintenance support services. The contracting officer that is handling this requirement is Justin Lloyd, also known as Dion Lloyd, and the contract specialist is Vanessa McNair. The scope of the software for O&M effort is for the purpose of conducting corrective, adaptive, and perfective actions to include enhancements to the Criminal Alien Identification Initiative, application systems, updates to the system documentation, and limited enhancements of the systems, subsystems, databases, and web services for the enforcement and removal operations group of systems. The ERO group of systems include the listed 6 systems. The current incumbent for this contract is Credence Management Solutions Limited Liability Company. Some of the information for the award details, they're estimating $32 million and 8A set aside. Estimated release of the solicitation is sometime in December of this year, 2023, with an anticipated award of February 2024. We have listed the APFS, the NACS code, the current contract. The current contract does end March of 2024, and it was off 8A stars 3. If there is anyone, David from the program or ITPMs that would like to talk in regards to this, please do so now.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay. If that's the case, then I guess we can move on to the next slide, which would be Vine. Again, I'll be presenting this for the contracting officer, Justin Lloyd, known as Dion Lloyd. This is the DHS Vine, the Victim Identification Notification Exchange requirement. This is ICE's custom solution service that provides a publicly accessible internet site for victim access, an internal management portal referred to collectively as DHS Vine. DHS Vine Link allows victims to register for DHS Vine and access additional information regarding the custody status of an offender online. DHS Vine Watch allows the DHS Vine help desk personnel and ER victim witness coordinators to provide assistance to victims and registering them. The DHS Vine system then provides victim notifications in a variety of notification methods, for example, as phone calls, emails, and text messages. The current incumbent is Data System and Analytics. The contract specialist for this is Michelle Ned. The current award information, current award details is estimated value of $21 million. Right now, this is listed as unrestricted. Estimated release of the solicitation in May of 2024. Anticipated award date, July of 2024. Below that, we have the current APFS, the NACS code, the current contract number, and the current contract that ends in July 1st of 2024 of CIO SP4. Does the program have anything they would like to add to this?
Good morning. Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. I believe that's it on the acquisition actions. So I'll turn that over back to you, Tommy or Adrian.
Yeah, no, I got you. Okay, well, thank you very much. Great job, Heather. I appreciate you covering all of that for us. So now with the pretty much the last slide, we're going to give you a little teaser here. These are requirements that we're looking to do between FY 24 to 26. So these may or may not come to fruition, but right now this is what we're looking to try and do and try and accomplish. Now, there's not a lot of information here because, well, primarily we just don't have it yet. And of course, funding is always a topic that we need to address. But right now, these are the actions we're looking to do. They have not been posted in APFS yet, so keep an eye out for APFS when we begin to post these and provide you with more detail, and also be looking for the potential for RFI postings so that we can complete our market research. So the next slide, please. All right, so the next vendor outreach session that Anita mentioned earlier is August 24th. So there's a link there. You can reach out and try and sign up for those sessions if you're interested in that. And our next vendor engagement day, we're going to be shooting for November. And topics will be to be determined. Next slide. And now we'll go into Q&A. So, Chris, are you prepared for that?
Well, you know, it's always, are we prepared, right? We've gotten some questions in. Obviously, the briefers were going through them, so they weren't able to answer some of the questions as they were briefing. And I know they're reading them now. So, first couple of things I want to note is that I made a couple of published announcements in the Q&A. This is recorded, and the slides are available. They'll be on YouTube. The link's in the published channel. And I'm going to start taking a look at these questions now and going through them. Believe the very first question that came in was about forecast for intelligent document processing. And I believe that internally we were talking back and forth, and we don't have a listing for that within ICE, and that is a CIS posting. So I believe somebody may have the actual link for that CIS posting though, so we may be able to put that in the reply, Andrew, for you. So if somebody wouldn't mind doing that, that'd be fantastic. And then John Wood asked, how is ICE dealing with encrypted mobility for voice, text, and data across the enterprise? And I chatted with Mr. Thorne. I think he's still on, but I don't know if he wants to verbally go through that since we have some time. But he said he was aware of the gap and interested in learning more about the text and voice encryption solutions. And Rob, I just want to mention, this is the first question we've had. And I know that everybody loves when I do this, but I am Chris.Lee at ice.dhs.gov, and I am the vendor engagement liaison for OCIO. And I put on the umbrella to protect all of IED and the rest of the divisions. But Rob and his team are great about meeting with any potential vendors and solutions for our needs and zero trust. And we've gotten this question a few times, Rob, like I mentioned. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about this at all a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and familiar names with the question, so that's always nice to see. Yeah, we're absolutely familiar with with the gap from a voice and text perspective, and that occurred when we had to we're only allowing SMS text at this point, and we all know SMS text is not encrypted. So that's in order for us to make certain that we can get our text messages for official business anyway, capture, I should say. That said, we're aware of the gap. I'm always open to learning about the new capabilities to encrypt voice and text, and it's something that's more of a leadership decision at this point. Yes, it's on our radar, but we've got other risks and other things that we're working on now, and of course this is in the pipeline, and it's just a matter of understanding what capabilities and are available to us, and then making options, making those decisions. At this point, from a decision perspective, I'm not certain if this will bubble up in FY24, but it definitely is on our radar, and I am willing to meet with vendors and understand and learn more about the solutions they have in this space.
Hey Rob, taking questions a little out of order. Do we plan on implementing browser isolation as part of our zero trust strategy? Were you able to find? I know we had talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we've got browser isolation, as one of the areas that that we might implement. We do have capabilities in house right now that we definitely could do it, but it's just a matter of seeing, hey, what are the impacts? How easy is it to deploy out? And kind of look at the impacts of doing so. So that said, again, while we do have capability in house to do that, I'm always interested in learning more about products and other things out there that might benefit us.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, there may be more questions for you, so don't disappear, but I'm not down that far on the list. So I think the next question is probably for Anita. And maybe you can type the reply, Anita, but is there a contact email for a small business officer? Do you want to give that verbally, Anita?
Yes, I'll give it verbally. It's Anita, ANITA .Perkins, PERKINS @ice.dhs.gov.
And I just typed that as she was saying it, and I'm adding it to the chat.
Thanks,
and there it
Chris.
is. The next question up is, congrats on the small business goals. Does ICE does ICE do any analysis during execution of small business set-asides? How much of the money spent ends up with large business subs?
How much of the money spent with? Well, we definitely do analysis of which to determine which way the procurement is going to be awarded. So that would include large businesses as well. As I'm sorry, the second part of that question was,
So I think
how much money goes?
This is like what we were talking about, Nita, a little bit yesterday. So if it's a small business set aside, right? And what's the percentage of money for that small business set aside that could go to a large sub? Is there a percentage mark in the contracts that a watermark, like they can't go beyond that, or there's a percentage in there?
Right. If it's small to a large business, if a small business is subcontracting,
yeah,
because first of all, small businesses are not required to sub at all. However, I believe it's 51 to 49%.
Right. Yeah, that's the default, right? So the small business would be 51, and the most they could sub out would be the 49%.
Correct.
Okay, next question. I think somebody asked, is 8A stars the final vehicle for choice? And I believe in April, Joyce replied, yeah, for CAI, it's 8A stars 3 is the planned vehicle. So thank you, April, for that. Bob Bukowski asked, will the bidder need to show 8A certification for the award? And April replied, the solicitation will be identified in the requirement. I don't actually know what particular procurement that was for, but I believe it came through at the very end there. You also asked, Bob, why is DHS fine not being released on a small business set aside? And Ms. Cawthon said the CO is in early stages and will be releasing an RFI to see what vehicle this will be procured off and whether it will be a small business set aside or not. So basically it hasn't been decided yet. Mike says, is the current EHR solution on-prem or cloud SaaS? Is it expected the new solution will be cloud-based, AWS, Azure, Oracle? If a provider offers a deployable modular on-prem solution, should we not bid an on-prem solution? Wouldn't want to place time and effort into a bid that would not be seriously considered. Thank you. And I think I'm trying to look. I believe the answer is the current work for EHR is on 2 contracts, and I'm not going to read that off, which was a sole source for an AMR number that's listed. Now, those are listed in the Q&A, so if you need that information that's specifically there, I don't think there's much a point for me to read off those long numbers. And then Patrick Lewis also replied, the current EHR solution is hosted as a software as a service offering on the Azure platform. All future EHR offerings will need to be cloud-based. And Patrick, if you're on and you wanted to speak to that any further, feel free to, but I think otherwise we're good there. For JICMAS, is any market research going to be conducted? If so, what is the estimated timeline? We added the JICMAS item to the future procurement list yesterday. As it mentioned, it's a CBP contract. In speaking with my leadership, I believe that they're talking about putting an RFI out for that. So there will be some market research being done. And the customer let me know that the date for that they're targeting is early of calendar year 24, and that's listed in there. And that's the only information that we have at this time for the JICMAS potential procurement. Next question, does ICE do sole source awards often, or is the work primarily through solicitations? Ms. Cawthon said, we do RFIs and market research to ensure the requirements indeed are sole source. Otherwise, we try to have competition and use strategically sourced contract vehicles. Thank you. For ICE, CAII, O&M, is a contract vehicle identified at this point? Yes, 8A stars 3, and I believe we mentioned that before. Thank you, Ms. Joyce. What is ICE's strategy for adopting Gen AI and machine learning in its IT modernization and digital transformation initiatives? So, Mr. Hall, are you on? May not be. He's our Chief Enterprise Architect. What I will say to that is that our team in the Technology Transformation Office have done a multi-meeting study across the ICE enterprise and landscape and added it to our technology, our strategic technology initiative. So we do have it on for future. The department has asked each component to basically wait and see what they come out with as far as the policy goes, as far as a strategy for adopting specific technologies. But we are absolutely collecting data use cases and definitely have our ears to the ground for anything and everything related to those activities. If anyone wants to speak to us as far as the vendor goes and do presentations on that, we're definitely interested in hearing from you guys. And again, I will put my email in chat. I think there's a couple questions that are asking for it, but it's chris.lee@ice.dhs.gov. Is it appropriate for vendors to introduce their companies in the Q&A chat for potential collaboration? I would prefer that you just email me to do that, and then I can help liaison out any potential meetings for that. I know Tommy Thompson and Anita and I meet with multiple vendors every week. I'd say 4 to 5 at least at the minimum. And we do introductions and we talk about acquisition and what ICE is up to in APFS and SAM, and then I take my role from a technical perspective and help liaison that out for within OCIO specifically. If there's IT needs outside of OCIO, then Tommy usually takes those on. I hope that's
Yeah.
helpful overall. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Tom.
Chris, I think that question is kind of aimed at collaborating with other vendors.
Oh.
At least that's the way I
Not
read
with
it.
us. I mean, hey.
I mean, it could
yeah,
be,
so
but I'm just offering a flip side of that
that is
coin,
true.
and
That is true.
and we generally don't have that kind of arrangement. But I will say that the DHS at the vendor outreach sessions, they do have a mechanism for large businesses to meet with small businesses, so that there is a potential there for that type of activity.
Hey, Tommy, is there a link that you could add from, I think it's the department that has that meeting. Could you add that link into that reply? That would be fantastic to have.
I'll try to find it. Anita, do you have it?
Okay. I'm going to move on and let you guys.
I can put it, but I will say this month's vendor outreach on August 24th is specific to 8A only.
Okay. Thanks, Anita. I appreciate that. For Mr. Thorne, your supplemental slides show API management as a technology priority. Do you intend to move forward with the bake-off for your recent API management RFI for this FY?
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Right.
Yes, yes, and yes. Yeah, API capability or security is an important project going forward, and the answer is yes.
And we just saw those RFI responses this week. So
this week, yeah, we just received those. Yeah, yeah.
Another question for you, Rob. Thank you for participating today. Does your office remain interested in exploring implementing a continuous ATO capability? Is ICE doing this today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have pieces in place for continuous ATO, but it's clunky. You know, we're looking at, you know, what is the best approach for us. So, you know, I welcome vendors coming in and talking about their solutions and capabilities in this area. Yeah, it's a big challenge for us at this point in time. You know, we've got micro apps that are being pushed out into the environment, and they want to be pushed out quickly. But yet, if they're using multiple platforms that we're not familiar with, then it slows things down. And I don't want to continue being blamed for that. So anything and everything I'm looking to ingest.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
When is the next industry day? We did have that on one of the slides. We're targeting November for the next one. Is there a timeline for when an RFI will be released for CAII, Agile software development and Tier 3 support services? And Ms. Joyce said the RFI was issued in July of 2023 for CAII. And Mike asked for the ICE vendor engagement email again. Now, Tommy, I believe we have a generic email address as well as my personal one. What is that email address off the top of your head, Tommy? The one we used the mailbox?
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head because it comes in as a hash. It comes in as a hashtag. So
hang on a second. I'll look. I think I have it. It's ICE vendor management at ice.dhs.gov. I'm going to type it in right now. I just had to look at my mailbox real quick.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, let's see here. It's ICE vendor management at ice.dhs.gov. It's really that simple. And that goes to, believe Tommy, that goes to me, you, and Anita, that mailbox. So
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And next question, does ICE have a data boundary for cloud computing, data types that will not currently be put on any cloud provider, i.e. criminal investigation records? Is ICE expecting to be all in with multi-cloud strategy, or there will always be some workload that is ICE will be kept on-prem? Rob, I don't know if you're still on, but I believe the answer is, if I had to take a guess at what we have, we're always going to have some things in places like Equinix, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we are cloud first and forward, and SaaS for that matter as well, in some cases when appropriate. But we're going to continue to always have some need for on-prem, what we would consider on-prem internal network stuff.
Yeah, I agree. You know, some applications when you look at it, you don't need to be spinning up a lot of hardware to support those. So yeah, I think we've got some that, you know, from a cost perspective, maybe they are going to remain on-prem, but you know, we still have a multi-cloud, cloud first approach going forward.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. Bob Bukowski asked, do we provide an attendee list? We do not provide the attendee list for this meeting. Anita, you provided the link for the vendor outreach sessions. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And I actually used that link yesterday to update when the next one was. And Anita, what would you say? I know you said the next one, small business only. Do they rotate through what's particularly talked about, and they announce that on the actual that website?
Yes, they print the schedule out there. So most times is just small business vendor outreach sessions, but then there are certain months that is specific to certain socioeconomic groups. So November is service disabled veteran owned small business month, and then you have woman owned hub zone, but they will be listed on the schedule.
Okay. I have one more question, I believe. Just give me 1 second. I was trying to approve one that was coming in as new. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. No, so somebody asked for a specific person's email, and you know, that's briefing today. And I just want to mention that if you have any questions, or you want to come through as a vendor, just to email us through the ICE vendor engagement mailbox that I posted, or email me directly, and then we'll go that route. And yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Let me publish that. So, and that's it. Did you go ahead and go to the next slide real quick though, because we have a lot of time. Tommy,
Hey, Chris,
hold on one.
Yeah, I think there was another question. How are you defining data boundary? Did we address that?
Oh wow, that one skipped right past me. I guess Jimmy must have put that one up while I was working the other one. So
related to the cloud that
yeah,
Rob had mentioned.
So Rob, are you still on? I don't know the answer to that question. How are we defining the data boundary? I don't know if that's a broad. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I would have to probably engage someone in a conversation to understand what they mean by, you know, how are you describing the data boundaries? I mean, we have boundaries set for our clouds and our systems and other things, and you know, how we transfer data, but you know, it's based on our packages, so I'm not certain exactly how to answer that.
Yeah, maybe Mike, but and then another one came in. Thank you, Rob. Yeah. Maybe you'll follow up. If he does, then we'll get the answer.
Sure. Yeah.
You mentioned M2131 data. Is this integrated into an overall data management approach?
Yeah, so we're in the process of doing that. I mean, like I said, I think one of our challenges right now is we're ingesting such large amounts of data that we've got to, you know, intelligently be able to use that data and move it around and get it to the right operators. So, you know, right now we're kind of looking at solutions to do that, and maybe reduce some of the workload we have on certain individuals to parse through that data. So, you know, the other challenge is the storage piece. So we're also kind of looking at different ways to more intelligently store the data from a cost perspective as well. So those are challenges that we're working through actively.
So Mike also followed up, Rob, with the what does go in cloud and what doesn't, and I think it's an example that without being very specific about what is important from a security perspective, maybe one example of tools that we have that we manage internally. For example, I believe monitoring would be one of those kind of capabilities, possibly some other things. I don't know if there's any specific ones you want to mention, but I would just want to say that majority of our stuff is all cloud. Like, I mean, what are
It
we,
is.
95 or higher percentage wise of all the applications and things we have? They're either cloud or public, even facing portals, but it's internal tools and those kind of things that tend to still stay on-prem in some cases.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think more through it and you talk about data categorizations and you have your broad categorizations, whether it's HR data, financial data, law enforcement data, and where can it reside, where can it reside? I don't think we've gotten to that point where we've said, oh, if it's law enforcement data, it can't reside in the cloud. I think that would cripple us in a sense, because that's all the data that we're working with. But I
Right.
understand where you're going with that question now, and the answer is I work closely with our chief data officer, and at this point, yeah, we don't have those restrictions in place.
Yeah, we're not so black and white with our definition of things,
Yeah.
right? In general.
Yeah.
We have big buckets, but in general, we're pretty open to being flexible,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is there's lots of different ways that you can slice and dice and protect data, and we are keen on that, and we make certain that security follows the data, and at this point in time, so that's kind of the approach that we take.
Thanks again, Rob. It's been
Yeah,
fantastic
yeah.
today. I appreciate you being on with us for this presentation today in the Q&A. Tommy, I know before you get to the thank yous, I wanted to mention to everybody that there's 2 additional slides at the end of this deck. One is the OCIO org chart, and sometimes we get questions, and possibly we would brief that a little bit more thoroughly in one of the future meetings. Again, we usually do that about once a year. As well, there is a updated strat tech slide that my counterpart, Steve Hall, our Chief Enterprise Architect, updated for this particular meeting. He briefed us on the status of Tech Strat last presentation, and so we've updated that a little bit so you can see if there's any 24 and 25 things that we're targeting beyond what we went over today. And if you have any questions about any of those targets that are on the strategic technology roadmap, feel free to email me. The deck, can the deck be shared here? The deck is out on SAM. It's a PDF, and internally, if anybody needs the deck, let me know and I'll get it to them. But the deck is already out on SAM, where the meeting was posted. And that's it, Tommy, back over to you.
Okay, very good, Chris. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for everybody for participating, and thank you all for tuning in. We're going to have another event sometime in November, hopefully early November. And don't forget, we have we will be posting this on the ICE Gov YouTube, and there was a link provided in the presentation itself just a second ago. So don't forget, and thank you for tuning in once again. And we are here to help you understand more about ICE. So please reach out, and thank you, and have a good day.